and we're back here with part 2 of Monkey World's Mastermind. So Mike, today your chosen subject is?
Me.
It's all about you?
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
I am.
Okay Mike, here we go. So question from Lucy. What's been the most difficult part of working at the park?
Answering this question. There's a whole mishmash of lovely things about working. Okay, I know. Getting up in the middle of the winter when it's frosty and the snow and having to come out of my warm bed and come to work here.
A question from Lizzie. Do you find yourself getting too attached sometimes? And if so, what strategy do you implement to try and take a step back?
You can't help get attached to them, but you know, if you're hand rearing something, then all you're really concerned about and thinking about is getting the animal to feed, no illnesses, no infections, and getting that animal to survive. If you are looking after a sick animal and it does die, it's usually at the end, after it's dead, that I sort of go around the corner and break down for half an hour and then come back because you've got to get on and do the work to look after all the other animals as well.
That's great, Mike. Question from Louise. If you could go and see any animal in the wild in its natural habitat, which one would it be?
It'd have to be gorillas, wouldn't it?
Question from Lauren. Does Gordon think of you as Dad?
He has a certain affinity. He does sort of give me a funny little look when I walk past. Sometimes he'll come over and say hello. But of course he's a big alpha male orangutan, so you know he's the daddy now.
Question from Ruth. How did you get started with a career in working with animals?
I did all my schooling in Portsmouth and I knew I wanted to work with animals. Didn't know in what direction, so I managed to find myself a job at Bristol Zoo and they put me to work straight away with the great apes.
Another question from Ruth. Which of the monkeys or apes do you think you're most like?
Probably orangutans, I would think. I don't think I'm like a chimp. Can be a bit blustery. You just bomb ahead and do things, where an orangutan will sit there and think about things. And if I'm asked something, I tend to sort of think about the ups and downs, the goods, the bad, before I actually come up with an answer. Great.
Question from Jenny. Now you're on the education team, do you miss working hands-on with the primates?
Yes, I do. I had a few health problems and I'm just not fit enough to be able to jump fences and climb things and do that. But actually I do have the advantage now of seeing all the lovely animals, but I don't have to get my hands dirty anymore.
And another question from Jenny, just going back to the differences between working with the primates or working with the children. Who are the easiest to handle?
Some of the children are beautiful, some of them are not so, and the same with the primates. It's a difficult one. But I enjoy working on the education side because I think it's very vital, important that we actually get the message over to our youngsters these days.
A question from Deborah. How are we ever going to get the message across to the masses that palm oil production kills orangutans? Do you sometimes feel helpless like I do?
Yes, I do. I won't buy anything with palm oil in if I can possibly avoid it. I always look at the ingredients. I'm diabetic, so I have to look at the ingredients to see what sugars, carbohydrates are in it. So I always look for palm oil. And hopefully our education department goes out. We have Rebecca, who does the schools liaison officer. She goes out to schools and gives talks to the schools, and hopefully we can get through to everybody.
Great. Question from Anne. Did you work with Oscar at Bristol Zoo?
I did work with Oscar. In fact, I hand-reared Oscar. Oscar was the first orangutan born at Bristol Zoo, and Mum didn't look after him. I had the opportunity of hand-rearing him.
Question from Sue. If a primate could talk, which one would you talk to and what would you ask?
Probably Gordon, and say, did I do a good job? What do you think, mate?
A question from Kevin, and I know that many of your followers would like to see this happen. Have you ever considered writing a book, and when's it going to be?
I actually started writing a book back in Bristol Zoo, and it was entitled Diana and I. It was about a gorilla called Diana that I had a very close relationship with. I'm sort of, I think I've done the fly cover, I've got that sorted out, but everybody's on to me to do it. It will happen one day.
And last question from Anne. Did you used to work at Bristol Zoo?
I worked at Bristol Zoo for 27 years. I was at Chester Zoo for 6.5 years, and I've been down here at Monkey World for 17 years now as well.
Great, so thank you Facebook supporters, absolutely fantastic questions that you submitted for our 20 questions with Mike. We'll be bringing you another video update with another member of staff at some point next week. Have a great weekend.